panini. Don't you be a meanie. Thought you wanted me to go.
Hello, so I'm going to be doing a video today about Sagittarius woman and Sagittarius man. Sagittarius, they are the freedom sign. They love their freedom. The Sagittarius woman could be, how could I say it? She could be like the gypsy, hippie. I'm thinking of like the 70s type. Very like the 70s. I don't know if you've seen like the 70s show, or like the way they were like very free, the way they would go to the concerts and like just don't pay and all that stuff. Anyways, they're a freedom sign, so if you are like a Cancer or a Taurus and you guys like commitment, you guys might not do well with this sign, just because in the beginning of a relationship, like signs like Sagittarius and Gemini, they see nothing wrong with dating like multiple people and talking and having a lot of friends of the opposite sex. And even the sign of Libra, like they won't commit right away. They will talk to a lot of different people, a lot of different opposite sex friends, and they may not commit all the way, especially if you're in a relationship with the Sagittarius. Like, let's say the Sagittarius just falls in love really fast and then they fall out of love just as fast. So like, you could be on a date with a Sagittarius man and you guys could be having a good time. You think you're in a relationship, and then all of a sudden he calls you and he's in a different state, a different city. He's like, hey, what's up? I'm not in California anymore, I'm in Colorado. And you're just like, well, I thought like we were together. But that's what I mean by they're not commitment. Like, they don't like commitments, they don't like burden. So that's what I mean. So they could fall in love and they could be telling you that they love you and they want a life with you, and then they fall out of love and they're ruled by their legs and they like to travel. So they may leave the country, they may leave the city, and then they see someone else and they fall in love with that person, and their feelings are so high. They're telling this person, I want to marry you. And they could even go through with it. Like, they could even get married and have a baby and buy a house, and then all of a sudden they fall out of love, and then they see someone else and they fall in love with that person. And you're just like, I thought I had this marriage, this house, and really they are with their mistress. They're with their mistress. Like, Sagittarius, also you got to be careful with them if you're like a Taurus or you like stability, because they're risk takers. It's even in their characteristic. It's not about you. They they are risk takers. Like, they will risk it all. This is a reckless sign, and they have reckless in their personality. I'm being serious. Like, in their characteristics, they have reckless in it. So does the sign of Aries. They have being reckless. So if you want a marriage or a baby or a house, I'm not sure about this sign. Unless this, I'll get into it in a minute. But they have reckless in their system, so they could risk it all. They could have gambling issues, casino. They could have issues. And they could risk it all. They could even risk their marriage and their house for another woman. They could risk it. I think Brad Pitt is a Sagittarius, and he left Jen Aniston for Angelina Jolie. They love risk taking. They love the adrenaline. They like it. So if you're a Taurus or someone that wants stability, I'm not sure you can with the Sagittarius, unless the Sagittarius is into religion, which I'm going to get that into right now. Religion is a part of the Sagittarius, It's a part of their sign. I would have to look it up again, but religion is a big part. So you know how I said they may not like burden or responsibility. They run from it. They don't like the feeling of responsibility or burden. Like, let's say you put your clothes in the washer and you have that burden of putting them into the dryer. Like, they don't like burden. They don't like it. So they could even be this way with their children. Like, they may not be the typical parent. They're not going to be that Virgo hovering over their child. Um, you could even, like, let's say if you're their child, you're their kid or something, and you have a Sagittarius mom. Like, you could go to your soccer game, you'll get a ride from your friend, and then all of a sudden your mom shows up, your Sagittarius mom, in the middle of your soccer game. She's like, "Hi, I'm here, I made it." And she's like, "You're already in the game." And she's sitting down. She's talking to all your friends' moms, and you're watching her, and you got a ride from your other friend. And then the game's over. And you go to your mom, and everybody goes to their parents, and you're like watching your Sagittarius mom, and she's just walking. She's walking to the fence back to her car, and she takes off, and you're just there with your bat and your hat, and you're just like looking at your mom take off. And she's like, "Bye, honey, you did good." And she takes off. And you're just like, wow, how am I gonna get home? And so you have to get a ride. I'm sorry, you have to hitch a ride. You have to hitch a ride at this point back home, which you might not even have because they don't like responsibility or burden. So you could have a lot of eviction notices. They could have a lot of eviction notices on their door. Or they could be the exact opposite. And the only reason why they could be the exact opposite is if they're into religion. Okay, religion is a big part of the Sagittarius man and woman. Often throughout the day, they could be talking to God, they could have conversations with God, they could pray before they eat. Even if they're not that religious, they will still have conversations with God. And you can see this with the Sagittarius man and woman. Throughout his or her day, they are thoroughly having conversations with God. Like, you could just be driving and you can see your Sagittarius man or woman in the backseat, and they're like talking to God and they're praying. Religion and spirituality is a big part of their life. And only then, like, if they're really into religion, and they believe in marriage and they're really into religion, just forget about it. Like, it could be a sexy girl in a thong and they will not cheat. It could be a sexy man with a lot of cash and they will not cheat, because if they're really into religion, Sagittarius is a religious sign. So if they're into that religion, forget about it. They're not cheating, they're not leaving the marriage. They are strictly in that religion. And about the parenthood, if they're into religion, sorry. Whew. Okay, if they're into religion, they could be one of those church moms that beat their children or like make them wear skirts, and they go to church every Sunday, and they're like a helicopter mom, and they're religious, and they're after their children. Who are your friends? Who's your boyfriend? You can't have a boyfriend. They could be kind of annoying if they're into religion. They could be those church moms that are really strict. But that's if they're into religion, like seriously, like they're committed into their religion. Also, it doesn't always have to be God. It could be like another religion, like a sorority house, a clique, a gang. It could be like a cult, whatever. Like they do value spirituality. So if they are into some kind of cult or gang or group or religious or church or God, they really follow it. So what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, they're ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter is a planet of luck and fortune. And like I said, they could be reckless, but a lot of times they get really, really lucky. They get really lucky because Jupiter is the planet of luck and fortune. So usually their recklessness, like their luck, makes up for the recklessness. Like they could go on job interviews, they could get jobs easily, they could find opportunities anywhere. They have a gift. They have a gift for gabbing, like talking. They could be really obnoxious. Sagittariuses could be really loud and like obnoxious. They could have really bad thoughts. Like if they see a fat person, they could think like, man, like that person's big, or her butt's big, or she has a big nose. And they could think really bad thoughts in their head, and they could say it out loud too. Like I said, they're obnoxious. Yeah, so they could be very, very rude. If they see a fat person or a ugly person, are rude and obnoxious, and they could be loud. Sagittarius. So if they see a fat person, they can be like, oh, that person's big, or that person's ugly, or their nose is big. And they could say it like out loud. They could even tell you, not in a mean way, but in an obnoxious way. Like they could just tell you. They'll tell their friends. Also, Sagittarius tends to have a blabbermouth. So if you tell them, everybody's gonna know about it. Everybody's gonna know about it. You know, they'll tell your business to everybody. Everybody's gonna know about it. But not about that, but like, how could I say it? They just blurt stuff out and they see nothing wrong with it. And I could give you an example. Like, let's say somebody bought a car off of you and the car was like $800 or $2,000, and you're really pissed because that person ripped you off because the car is no good, right? And that person is a Sagittarius's daughter-in-law that sold you the car and ripped you off, and the car just doesn't work at all, and you're so mad. So let's say you go over to the Sagittarius house and the daughter-in-law's there, and you don't know that's the daughter-in-law. She'll introduce you to the daughter-in-law and say, yeah, this is the girl that sold you that car that didn't work, that you got ripped off from, and you got evicted from your home, and now you're homeless. Yeah, this is the girl. But she doesn't do it to be mean. She just sees nothing wrong with it. She's just very obnoxious. Both him and her are very obnoxious, and they'll just blurt stuff out. They see no reason to hide anything. They are very honest to a fault. They're very blunt and honest. They could pick on someone, or it could feel like they're picking on you because they're very blunt and honest. But the thing about Sagittarius is that they are so honest to a fault about everybody else's business but their own. They are not honest about their own business. Sagittarius could be ripping people off, they could be doing someone dirty, they could be using someone, they could be doing bad things themselves, but they will not be honest about it, and they will never admit that they're wrong. They will never admit that they're doing bad. They'll never admit to anything, but they are honest to a fault about everybody else. But with themselves, they kind of fail to be honest about themselves, which is kind of annoying, because it's like, here you have somebody that will call you fat and be obnoxious to you, but yet if they're doing wrong, if they're like doing stuff that's wrong, or they have a flaw, they won't be honest about it. Not about a flaw, but if they're doing something wrong, they won't be honest about it. But Sagittarius could make fun of themselves and say their own flaws just because they're so honest and blunt. And if you're in a relationship with this man and he cheated on you, they're really, really honest to a fault. So he might even confess. Like, if he'll confess that he cheated on you, he'll tell you that he cheated on you, because they are really, really honest to a fault. So You don't have to worry about it. Like if it was a Scorpio or a Cancer or a water sign and they're cheating on you and they're keeping secrets, Sagittarius is like brutally honest. So they're gonna tell you like, yeah, I cheated on you with your best friend. Like they'll tell you and confess to you. So also with the whole never admitting that they're wrong, they are ruled by Jupiter. And um in mythology, Jupiter, okay, was the king, or no, was the god. So Jupiter was the god of all the kings. So basically he was the god of the god. He was the king of the kings. So Sagittariuses have a lot of self-righteousness in them. I don't know if we could feel our past life, but Zeus definitely has influence over the sign. So if a Sagittarius man and woman, you'll notice that they won't admit that they're wrong, or they'll just have, even if they're doing something really effed up to you or really effed up to someone else, they'll hold their head high, and they'll have this self-righteous attitude and personality about it. Even if, like, let's say they don't like burden, they don't like responsibility. So let's say even if they don't raise their children, like let's say they just completely abandon their children, right? And they never raise their children, they completely abandon. And I'm thinking of a male, I'm not thinking of a female. Well, this could happen with a female, but I'm thinking about a certain male in my life. It's not you. Stop. It's not you. I'm thinking about a certain male, which isn't this male. But yeah. But they completely abandoned their children, and they didn't contact their children until they were around like 20 years old, their late 20s, graduated from college, and they got in touch with their dad. But their dad kind of acts like nothing's